is going to be tough to read, but I'll read it, and you have to just take my word for it. I list 4 signals prior to the German powerful military attack on Norway as signals. One was Kristallnacht. Now, Kristallnacht was the breaking of glass. You are, I'm sure, familiar with this. But in November 9th, 10th, 1938, German citizens were instructed by Goebbels to wreck, damage, destroy all the synagogues. You could assault Jews with impunity. With impunity. And that was done. And that was done. Now, and when it happened, there was not one protest from any Protestant clergy in Germany. Not one. Not one Protestant clergy stood up and said, this is against Christian values. Not one. The Catholic Church didn't either. 3 military leaders urged Hitler to attack Norway. And this happened actually, Quisling personally met Hitler on December 14th, 1939. Personally met him. Urged him to attack Norway because of things we talked about. Because it had access to the fjords, the place to park their ships, as a base to attack England, and so forth and so on. And then there was the Altmark incident. I don't know if I can get this clear or not. Is that better? Okay. Frankly, the Altmark, you may have heard of this, you may not. How many of you are familiar with what's called the Altmark incident? Okay, a number of you are. Anyway, the Altmark was a German ship, a small ship, that had been in South America. And in South America, the British managed to sink the parent ship that was connected with the Altmark. And the Altmark had some British sailors, almost 300 British sailors on board. They were prisoners from previous submarine sinkings of British ships. So here's the Altmark in South America returning to Norway as a safe base. They didn't want to go to Germany because they knew that the British would get it. When it comes into Norway, the British knew about it. The British knew that some of their ships that were sunk by German subs and battleships, that German captives were placed on this Altmark and was headed back north. And they were tracking it. And indeed, it went into Norway. And 2 British destroyers attacked it, disabled it, and got on board and freed the 299 British sailors. And freed them. That was a successful effort by the part of the British. Hitler used that as a way to say, well, Norway's not neutral. If they were neutral, they would have stopped the British. Well, of course, that was nonsense. But Hitler used that as an excuse to attack Norway. In fact, he gave the order to attack in April after that occurred. And then finally, on April 5th, 1940, and there are dramatic accounts of this, Norwegian Foreign Office people were invited by a German minister to view a peace film. And they were treated to a fine dinner. In fact, it was a dress-up, formal attire. Formal attire. Norwegians were treated as guests. And when they came into they were wined, treated to a fine dinner, and then they were shown a film called a peace film. The peace film was the bombing and utter destruction of Poland the September earlier. That was the peace film. And there was no full explanation. So the stunned Norwegians are, and actually there were U.S. Foreign Office people in there as well, including Mrs. Harriman, who was a U.S. ambassador to Norway, had been invited to attend this. 4 days later, Germany attacked Norway. And this was the signal. It was too weak for the Norwegians to get it, but they couldn't have done anything anyway. But that was the fourth signal that something big was going to happen. Okay. These are the four people that helped us escape. Dr. Sigurd Huss was our family physician. My mother did not know that he was part of the Norwegian resistance. He was not armed. He didn't have weapons with him. But he was a person that had contact with the Norwegian underground movement and would contact a person who might be an appropriate person to escape Norway. Dr. Sigurd Huss. Ola Olsen was a friend of the family. He worked at the factory that built diesel engines for ships in Norway, very close to the house where we lived on the island of Mumlo in the little town of Ruvesnesset. So he was a manager of this plant. Niels Nesse was about a 20-year-old man who was a crew member of the Siglaus, and the Siglaus was the ship that we escaped on the fishing boat. And the other one that I want to mention, the fourth person, is Captain Breivik, and he was the captain of the SS Brant County. That was the Norwegian freighter on a 40-ship convoy from London, St. John's to St. John's, New Brunswick. So these are four people I'd like you to keep in the back of your head, and we'll try to go through what happened to them. Okay, now the Shetland bus, there was no reasonable way to escape Norway during the war. About the only way, unless you lived on the border of Sweden and could walk across with danger, the only other way was by boat. And the fishing boats went 5 or 6 knots, slow, and it took about 36 to 40 hours to go 200 miles from, and Scotland was the closest from the west coast of Norway. So anyway, the Shetland bus, these were the functions of the Shetland bus: to establish regular communications between Norway and England. They supplied substantial arms and instructors to Norway from England. Radio stations, shortwave radio stations were established between England and Norway, and couriers were ferried back and forth, information about potential sabotage or resistance movement, so forth and so on. And number 5, it enabled numerous acts of sabotage to be carried out in Norway. And a major example was the destruction of the heavy water plant at, I'm going to mispronounce this because I lost my Norwegian at the age of 4, but Rjukan, is that how you would pronounce it?
Rjukan.
Yeah. Can you say it louder so they can hear you in the back?
Rjukan.
Rjukan, okay.
Yeah. There was a movie made of that.
Yes, that's right.
Do you know the name of that? Do you know the name of the movie?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Do you know it?
It's White something.
Okay, yeah. But I've seen documentaries on this in southern Germany, and it contributed to the sinking of German warships.